would like to request Dr. Sonia Bhatt ma'am to brief the profile of our next speaker, Dr. Nishi Pandey ma'am, Professor of Eminence, Department of English and Modern European Languages, University of Lucknow, Uttar Pradesh.
Hello. Now I am getting the opportunity to read a profile of Dr. Nishi Pandey ma'am. How blessed I am today. Dr. Nishi Pandey ma'am is a professor in Department of English and Modern European Languages, Coordinator Center for Cultural Text, Records and Translation of Indian Literatures, Director, International Collaborations. As an educationist and a committed social worker, a member of many NGOs and institutions working for the underprivileged and underprivileged girl, child, and empowerment of women. Deeply interested in literature, theatre, films, and all forms of visual and performing arts. Have contributed number of intellectual and cultural life of Lucknow, member of the executive committee of the Bharatiya Shiksha Mandal, serving as Pramukh, Anusandhan Pramukh, widely traveled studying at the University of Oxford, University of Louisville, USA, teaching, working collaboratively, delivering special lectures. She has been conferred with 23 awards, 5 international scholarships, 1 international award, 2 state government awards, and 20 plus awards from academic, social, and cultural organizations. Ma'am, please, I request you to please deliver a speech. Thank you, ma'am. I request organizing team to please unmute Nishi, ma'am.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Let me at the outset express my deepest gratitude for being invited here to be a speaker and congratulate you all for organizing this event. And I also welcome all the participants. And being the opening speaker, I thought that instead of getting into the whole jhagda of whether humanities and digital technologies go together, that will continue. That argument can continue and that fight can go on. But what we really need to focus on is and understand that there is the emergence of an aspect of digital technology, which is called the hypertext. And I would like to speak today about the emergence of hypertext as a literary genre. So we can trace the development of hypertext right from the 1930s and 1940s, when due to the Second World War, there arose a need for an information storage and retrieval system, which could process large amounts of data. This unveils the fact that advent of computers and hypertext is closely related to the needs of the armed forces. But that does not diminish the importance that computers, computer-mediated technology, and hypertext have begun to play today in the literary arena. The fact that hypertext contends to be an alternative to codex or the age-old print technology reveals just one aspect of its varied potential. In the opinion of technocritics, the present decade is a witness to the last stage of print technology, and they say that the days are numbered. The way computer technology has seeped into our lives and has been internalized by us in the form of internet, androids, satellite communication, etc., is sufficient to prove the significant role that it plays in our lives. It has also made inroads in the field of literature. Literature, which is the realm of human experience, now has a medium of expression that claims to be a more efficient and a more well-adapted vehicle of communication. The study of hypertext and its literary application, that is hyperfiction, demands an acquaintance with modern and postmodern ages, post-structuralist theory, and concepts. Hypertext, no doubt, gave a death blow to the notion of authorship and originality. Its collage-like structure is well suited to express the identity crisis that persists today. The theories, the theories of Roland Barthes, Deleuze-Guattari, Julia Kristeva, Michel Foucault, Issa, Jacques Lacan, and others might be useful for establishing the legitimacy of the field of hypertext, but they characterize the attempts for understanding the poetics of hypertext rather than its aesthetics. The aesthetics of hypertext, according to Espen Arseth, could be understood in terms of two tropes of hypertext, which are aporia and epiphany. Hypertext and computer-mediated technology are powerful tools, but the idea that hypertext can bring about social and cultural revolution, it seems ahistorical and anthropomorphic. And it's a misconception to many critics. They contend that hypertext systems are contrivances composed of discrete rules and relationships. They, in their opinion, tend to be regular and reliable, even in their vastness and randomness. They further argue that presenting hypertext constructs as an alternative to striated discourse and its culture is a pure delusion. Just like the lexical play in Finnegan's Wake by James Joyce. They contend that as no amount of lexical play or stylistic variations can liberate Joyce's text from the constraints of logos, so similarly, no amount of superficial or apparent multiplicity or flexibility can exonerate hypertext of its complicity in the military entertainment information culture. But this does not imply that hypertext systems have no significant role to play in the emerging society or in the transformation of culture. It is important to understand that hypertext technology does not mark a terminus, but transition. It is one of the many forces that are striving to achieve cultural transformation in the present society. Deleuze and Guattari also argued that smooth and striated space always exists only in a mixture. Smooth space is constantly being translated and traversed into striated space and striated space into smooth. This also implies that all works will always alter between logos and nomos. Such a hybrid space, which is an amalgam of smooth and striated, is the domain of hypertext, which is the new writing space. There are many technocritics who argue that hypertext is simply a more improved technique of communication, and they advise that it is more important to concentrate on the functional rather than materialistic or structural differences. The battle between the proponents and opponents of computer and computer-mediated technology usually deteriorates into material arguments of particularly fetish nature. And for this reason, it is more important to concentrate on content of the text rather than on the material or the medium. So I decided that we would look at some texts, but when we look at the modern and postmodern strategies of textual production incorporated by hypertext like multiple perspectives, collage, multilinearity, montage, etc., which is used to articulate different views and juxtapose contradictory opinions, that can be of advantage to the feminist writers. By using hypertext as a medium for literary composition, the feminists can undermine or subvert the patriarchal assumptions about text. Feminists like Barbara Page contend that notions like that of textuality as weaving and the construction of knowledge as web that has figured prominently in the development of hypertext has also been important in feminist theory, though for other different purposes. It is further argued that what Western culture has tended to label as feminine, that is, the forms characterized by silence, empty and full, multiple, associative, non-hierarchical logic, open and materially contingent processes, etc., are more close and relevant to the contemporary world and its reality rather than the hierarchical logics that produced the rationalist dreamworks of a civilization and its misogynist misconceptions. These forms constitute the defining features of hypertext and hence associate feminism with hypertext. Shelley Jackson, who is the author of a hyperfiction titled Patchwork Girl, and is also a leading technocritic, while distinguishing between good and bad writing, delineated the main features of hypertext and its association with feminism. She argued that good writing is direct, effective, and clean, like a bleached bone. She further contended that hypertext is bad writing because it is languorous and dispersed. The collage-like features of hypertext, she informs, are criticized by the traditionalists. This is true of feminist writing also. She further contends and says that the banished body is not necessarily female, but it is feminine. She remarks that this body is impure, diffuse, multiple and evasive, just like bad writing, which is hypertext. In fact, Jackson goes as far as to claim that hypertext is everything that for centuries has been damned by its association with the feminine. Écriture feminine or women's writing is open-ended, associative and diffused like hypertext. Many feminists have this opinion as well as technocritics. They contend that non-hierarchical organization of hypertext, its open-endedness and multiplicity are very well in sync with the features of écriture feminine. Hence, hypertext has the potential to provide a platform to the dissenting voices. The rhythmic evocations of hypertext that undermine the rigidities of symbolic codes and logical syntax can be utilized by feminists and avant-garde writers to construct hyperfictions. This genre, according to technocritics, is based on the theory of marginality, dissidence, and subversion, which also forms the basis of Julia Kristava's theory. Now, I'd like to pick up on a couple of hyperfictions to just take my discussion forward. Hyperfictions are literary applications of hypertext, and we have begun to study them seriously. I have also had a research scholar who submitted a thesis and been awarded it, and the work is published. It's on the aesthetics of hypertext. And so a lot of work in literary departments and literature departments has begun. So I would just like to pick up a couple of stories to explain how this works. So let us look at the first hyperfiction, which is titled Patchwork Girl. It's by Shelley Jackson. And this hyperfiction is based on the narrative of the Frankenstein, published in 1818. And, The Patchwork Girl of Oz by Frank L. Baum. So this hyperfiction builds upon the story of Frankenstein. For those, I'm sure most of you know the story of Frankenstein, but this was the story which talks about the creation of a monster, which then turns upon its own creator. So in Mary Shelley's Gothic tale of horror, the female monster was denied life by its creator, Victor. She is resurrected by Mary Shelley in Patchwork. The female monster, which is assembled from the body parts of different creatures is a patchwork like the text of the novel Patchwork Girl. She's monstrous and repulsive. After her creation, she spends some time with her creator and then leaves for America in search of new adventures. Her fellow passengers on the ship that she leaves for America keep on speculating about her sex. She dresses as a widow in mourning, hiding herself behind a veil, and befriends a cabin boy named Chansey. She undergoes numerous adventures in America. She finds it difficult to accept her multiplicity and decides to buy an identity and to buy a past. She buys the past of a woman named Elsie, and all her body parts start denigrating. She finds herself unable to control this destruction. Eventually, Elsie comes and takes back her identity and past, and the Patchwork Girl is saved from the destruction. She settles in the Death Valley. She leads a nomadic life there and becomes a writer, capturing the voices of her different body parts. This hyperfiction, according to Robert Cover, is, quote, perhaps the true paradigmatic work of the golden age of hypertext literature. Jackson has quite aptly projected body as a metaphor for text via this text. The Patchwork Girl, a hyperfiction, is not simply a monstrous creature narrating its own story, but it is also a monstrous text describing the journey of its evolution. The scars that, according to Patchwork Girl, constitute her real skeleton are in fact the links that join different lexias of this hyperfiction. It is divided into 5 sections, and each section has different narrators. This hyperfiction deals with a number of issues like that of originality and authorship, subjectivity, identity, gender, feminism, racism, and relationship between print and hypertext. So Jackson has handled and treated all issues very sensitively and dexterously. Her text subverts the patriarchal assumptions about authorship, originality, identity, and gender. It also exposes the futility of binary oppositions and taxonomical hierarchies. Jackson has projected the existence of multiplicity at different levels of the body, right from the microscopic level up to the macro level through the medium of this text. Patchwork Girl, the text as well as the character, is an incarnation of hypertext itself. The issues that it takes up are contemporary and have vexed human beings for quite a long time. The ways these issues have been dealt with in the text is very innovative and interesting. Now, I would not like to go into too much detail of explaining the other text which I wanted to pick up. That is another hyperfiction titled Its Name Was Penelope. Now, this fiction, what I want to talk about is that it offers a handful of choices to its readers at any moment of reading. It is divided into 3 main sections called Dawn, Sea, and Song. The middle section, C, is further divided into 4 subsections. And the impact of Homer's Odyssey is quite evident on the narrative technique of Penelope. The titles of different sections allude to Homer's epic, and each section of Penelope begins with a small extract from this epic. Now, this fiction was created as an artist's book in 1989, and in this work, the narrator, Anne Mitchell, is an artist, a photographer, who offers us a tripartite montage of a life in random screens of text that glimpse and blink like the slideshow at a party. Anne is an artist and photographer. She's mature and struggling. Her childhood memories, life as an artist, the difficulties that she faces, and the life of penury and rejection that she is forced to lead form the main themes of this hyperfiction. The different lexias of this hyperfiction can be read in a sequence determined by the pseudo number generator of computer. The reader can jump from one section to another or use the default command to read the lexia in each section. This ensures that each reading experience is different since it involves a different sequence of lexias and hence a different system of links that exposes many different types of spatial relations. These spatial relations then create a temporal tissue as they generate an assemblage of memories. Caroline Gaia has rightly remarked that Malloy, with simple randomizing screens of open ended text, has recreated the complex way we remember who we are. Technocritics have pointed out an interrelation between structure and themes in this hyperfiction. This hyperfiction, there is interplay between hypertextual freedom and sequential constraint. This is strategy of enacting a tussle and the dilemmas and decisions that Anne, the woman artist, struggles with inside the fiction. Malloy has attempted to intervene in the structure of discourse and created textual forms more congenial to the expression of women's subjectivity. Hypertext, computers, and computer-mediated technology have brought about drastic changes in the field of communication technology. Technology has seeped into the literary arena also, and let us accept it. Technocritics are quite optimistic about the potential of hypertext. In their opinion, hypertext and hyperfiction have given a death blow to the monopoly of a chosen few to interpret literary texts. Hypertext is a dynamic text, open to mutation and additions, and hence it can be changed in response to user input. It is open-ended, it is ever developing. The fluidity of hypertext, according to technocritics, is its most important characteristic. They contend that hypertext possesses the ability to provide platform to dissenting voices. So despite all the huge claims made by the proponents of hypertext and computer-mediated technology, it is inappropriate to project hypertext as an alternative to print. Rather than celebrating one media at the expense of the other, it is more appropriate to concentrate on interaction between the two. This will not only serve to undo the opposition that has been created between them by some technocritics, but will also significantly assert the crucial role played by print tradition for making sense of hypertext as anything but a series of fragments. Finally, how computers and hypertext can bring about social transformation and cultural revolution is also a debatable issue. This technology is a means and not an end in itself. Hence, the advent of hypertext and computer-mediated technology should be considered as transition and terminus. This will rescue their widely praised ramifications on femininity, deconstruction, and polyphony from a life on the fringes of literary study. Thank you very much.
Many members were at a standstill in their progress, and your talk seemed to provide much needed help. Thanks a lot, ma'am, for sharing your time with us and guiding us. Now,
Thank you.
before